Hey everyone, welcome back to DR Sports and the Talking Tactics show with me and Matisse. I'm really excited to break down a lot of stuff. We've got... Sorry, I got distracted. I'm so sorry. I got distracted by Ty coming in. Wait, what? Oh, he's got a cake. Why has he got a cake? What is going on?
What an intro that is. Your face when that happened was incredible.
Thank you, Ty. That's very sweet.
Thank you, Ty. Big up, bro.
No, thank you.
Appreciate you coming on the show. You got to go immediately, though. You're not part of this show, but thank you so much. Thank you.
I was like in the full.
You can place that there whenever you want.
And then he came
Welcome to the Tactics show, James.
Thank you. Sorry, I didn't blow these up. Thank you, Ty.
That is the beautiful, authentic response that we wanted. Big him up every single time. But welcome to the show, guys. It was James's birthday a couple of days ago. And yeah, that reaction is just beautiful. Do you know what I'm saying?
And really like, what's he doing?
It's cheered you up now. You didn't get the 3 points, but you got
I got a cake and I got a Harry Potter balloon. So thank you. Right, I've been really thrown off.
Put you right off, hasn't it?
Do you know, I spent hours planning this show, and I'm like, Ty's walking in. Here we go. Thank you, and thank you to the DR team for my balloon as well and cake. I'll just leave that there.
We'll leave it there.
Thank you. I was so thrown.
You're so thrown off. Well, we were gonna start with Chelsea versus Manchester United, wasn't we?
I need to gather my thoughts.
You need to gather your thoughts.
Just tell me about
a 1-1 draw.
Chelsea.
You know, bitterly disappointing for me as a fan. But to analyse the game as we get into it, Man United dominating that first half and really just, you know, completely walking all over Chelsea physically on and off the ball. They were able to create a multitude of chances, and they were also able to stop any transitions and any counters. So Chelsea in the first half, until that change, which we'll get into, really didn't have any threat. So yeah, disappointing start to the game, but Man United were brilliant.
I've gathered my thoughts now. I'm back. I lost all composure. I was like, what is going on? Anyway, thank you again, everyone. And thank you for the nice comments as well that I saw on some AFTV streams I did. Yes, you're right. Man United started brilliantly. And actually, as I keep gathering my thoughts and composure and read my notes, one of the things we've got to talk about Chelsea.
Yeah.
And I'm going to leave that to you. Mainly because it was a tactical tweak, Kukurea coming off, Kovacic, all that. I want to talk about, however, Man United first. And one of the things that they've started doing so well under Ten Hag, I noticed it in the Tottenham game, what a week they've had. And it's this ball into Bruno Fernandes, Casemiro and Eriksen sitting a little bit deeper. They've been getting this ball right. A few times he popped it off into Eriksen and there was Shaw on the overlap. They've been finding Bruno Fernandes in that pocket of space so well recently. And so what I wanted to do was have a little look at his touches when he came to Stamford Bridge. In the 21-22 season, kind of a little bit all over the pitch, some in the final third here, but he's involved in lots of different areas. And then you see his touches at Stamford Bridge this time around. A lot more, let's fix that. There we go. A lot more in that final third area, what you call playmaking, getting the ball off in midfield, laying it back into someone else or finding someone. I think he passed the ball to Anthony more times than any other player on the pitch. And he got the ball from Casemiro and Eriksen 5 times each. Yeah. He was at the heart of that transition from midfield to attack. And he's been getting it in those central areas where or those number 10 spaces where he didn't at Stamford Bridge last season. It's not an accident because these are his touches against Spurs. This time we're looking the other way because they're the home team. Big thank you to whoscored.com for these. But again, look how many just in that kind of central area, playmaking again, as opposed to Stamford Bridge before where he was popping up in other areas, trying to get involved, the sign of a team that don't really know what they're quite doing in terms of their identity. This time a lot better.
Now he's got a clear role. And he's kind of like almost baiting Chelsea. Like you said, popping that ball in between the lines, but sometimes giving it straight back or finding Anthony, who I thought was really good in that first half as well. Very confident player, very clearly, you know, not fazed by the Premier League, and he's obviously got the speed and the trickery to do so. But Fernandes was just baiting Chelsea constantly. And when they had that double pivot in there with Loftus-Cheek and Jorginho, they just couldn't keep up. They were simply outnumbered. You know, you had Casemiro, you had Eriksen, and you had Bruno, like you showed earlier, popping that ball in between the lines. They couldn't cope. And that's why Chelsea really never improved until that substitution was made. Now, I can understand why Potter went with the 3 at the back. We've seen it before with Silva. Obviously he's an aging defender, very good defender, great defender, but you don't particularly want to see him in these wide areas, having to defend 1v1. Had a couple times this season where he's had to go out into these wide areas and he's got caught. So Chelsea, when Silva play, are always going to mentally just go straight into, we need to play a three at the back, surround him with pace, let him conduct and control in the middle. But that did leave them light in midfield, and Man United outnumbered them. Yeah. And Man United now are becoming more possession-based. When they started the season, they went against Arsenal, Liverpool, and they countered, they were in transition. But now that, Casemiro's come into the team, who, obviously playing for Real Madrid, he's more used to that possession-based football. McTominay was never really going to be your perfect player for build-up play. The team's starting to take shape even more now. He's come into the team. He's been brilliant. For me, Casemiro's man in the match. Yeah. It's exactly what Chelsea actually lacked, ironically, in midfield. Because, like I said, he was shutting out the transitions. And, of course, him and Eriksen were starting that play through the middle. So it was a really impressive performance from them.
Yeah, I want to give massive credit to Man United because they actually matched this week. They matched their results of last season. They beat Tottenham at home and they drew 1-1 at the Bridge. But I'm telling you, as a neutral, forgetting my Arsenal allegiance or whatever, you feel a lot more convinced by Man United and the 4 points they got this last week than the way they got them last season. Yeah. It's chalk and cheese. And I know Ronaldo got the hat-trick last year, all the talk around him, but there's an identity. There's something about Man United's play for 90 minutes against Spurs, but definitely for large parts of the Chelsea game. They were very impressive.
First half an hour, they walked all over Chelsea. Yeah. Chelsea then got back into the game and it was more even, I would say, for the last 15 minutes when Kovacic comes on.
Should we talk about, let's talk about that change. So Cucurella comes off. What minute? 37th, I think it was. Kovacic comes on. And how are we readdressing this? Is it a back four?
Yeah, it becomes a back four immediately. Everybody falls back into their positions. And Cover and Loftus-Cheek there just on the outside of Jorginho. And it just allows an extra body in there to deal with the three that we were mentioning earlier in terms of on and off the ball. There's less now spaces I left, numerically it's just easier for Chelsea to deal with those spaces in between the lines. And in build-up, Kovacic is obviously very, very press resistant. He's very good with his, first phase play. He plays with Jorginho a lot in that pivot, so there's a good understanding. Chelsea just looked a lot better. And immediately when he comes on, he helps create a couple of chances. And that's where Chelsea now start to have a few little here and there moments with Aubameyang, who really in this game wasn't involved in the first half an hour whatsoever. Chelsea didn't attack with many players at all as well in that first half an hour. Couldn't transition, like I said. Man United, you could see, Anthony, you could see Sancho, 3 or 4, sometimes 5 players going forward because Dalot was overlapping as well. He's obviously very good going forward. Chelsea sometimes were attacking with only 2 players. So there's no surprise that their counterattacks were kind of, destroyed immediatly when you don't have much players to combine with.
It's so refreshing seeing a manager make that change and acknowledge it early.
Yeah.
Especially because it was 0-0 at the time. Often you can think, well, let my players play themselves into the game and we'll settle and it will come together. But he recognised around that 36th, 37th minute, well, probably before, because that's when he made the change, that they were just losing that battle. And, I couldn't believe the ease at which they were playing through those forward passes. And it's such a kind of simple thing. It's something that gets talked about and analysed a lot in the last couple of years when you're analysing teams. But those forward passes into Bruno Fernandes, you had to get that man in there. Let's have a look at some of the numbers around that game, because up to the 36th minute, Man United had 6 shots to Chelsea's 1. Man United had 176 completed passes to Chelsea's 123. They also had 51 attacking third passes to Chelsea's 19. But if I'm to put that alongside Man United, the stats from the 37th minute to the 90th. This is with Kovacic on the pitch. Again, Man United having some joy, but much more punch for punch, much more evened out. 7-5. Man United's completed passes, cool. They still had plenty, but look how many Chelsea completed in that time. Of course, that's a bigger time frame as well compared to the first half hour or so. 48 completed passes in the attacking third as a dip from what they did in the first 36 minutes, whilst Chelsea's went up massively. So that change worked. It was brilliant for Potter.
It's crazy that, isn't it? Especially that second line there, considering the time. Do you know what I mean? It just goes to show how much Man United dominated in that first half an hour. They really should have taken the lead and maybe even been a couple goals up. But again, Kepa making some crucial saves. Again, one of Chelsea's best players in that game.
How do you reflect on this week for Chelsea? Okay, a draw at Brentford. Listen, Arsenal just drawn at Southampton. I think what I try to tell myself, as you look on the positive side, is it can happen. You can go to these places. No one's a bad team in the Premier League, and it can happen. How do you reflect on that week and another draw at home to Man United? You know, Potter's ideas are coming together, and there was a really good run of wins. This week it's just halted a little bit.
Yeah, I think Chelsea and Potter are in a tough situation because there are some key injuries to players like obviously Reece James and obviously Koulibaly couldn't make this game. Kovacic actually come on with an injury as well. He wasn't meant to play this game. Chelsea have quite a few injury-prone players as well. I mean, most teams do these days. But also then just so many fixtures consistently is not allowing Potter to have much time on the training field. This game is obviously on Saturday evening. Then you've got Sunday recovery day, Monday light, and then you're into Tuesday on the game in Champions League. So there's not much time to work on things. And of course, he's still obviously getting to grips with the team and figuring things out. But there's a lot of parts of Chelsea's team that hamper other parts and make it look worse. So the lack of mobility from Jorginho, we saw in a moment in the first half, he kind of looked up to the skies because he couldn't keep up with play. It's happened a couple of times in the last few games. Azpilicueta would also be getting rinsed pace-wise, unfortunately for him. Silva's not obviously aging, so you have to look at trying to protect him game time-wise as well. So there's just a lot of little parts of Chelsea's team that kind of limit them and restrict them from expanding and being more expansive. And I think Casemiro is a great example of Man United being able to commit more bodies forward because they know they've got that protection behind them who can just kind of do everything. Yeah.
Maybe give you some quick yes or no's. Man United, better team without Ronaldo?
Oh, 100%. Not even a debate for me. I think Rashford, you know, yes, he obviously could improve his finishing, but you can see what he's bringing to the team, pressing from the front.
Agree. Penalty on Brozier, McTominay?
Do you know what? The bias in me wants to say I want a penalty, of course, but I didn't even think about the moment too much because Chelsea was just so poor.
Right, fair enough. I think it's Stonewall, and I thought that with the Jesus one in the Southampton game. We'll get to that. And the Casemiro header, did it cross the line?
Oh yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. Cross
You got to trust goal line technology.
Do you know what? That penalty from Brozier, I didn't even think about that because because Chelsea was so poor.
Really?
You kind of just focus on the fact that we didn't deserve anything out of the game, really, in terms of a result, but. Yeah, the Casemiro goal was gut-wrenching, but it did cross the line.
For what it's worth, in that first 36 minutes, Casemiro, Martinez, Eriksen, Chalobah and Fernandes completed the most passes. So one Chelsea player in there, and it was Chalobah, but three of their midfielders as well. Most ball recoveries came from Casemiro in that first 36 minutes. He stamped his authority on the game. And as you said, rightly the man of the match. Yeah. Right, we've got to talk about Tottenham, I believe.
Yes, we do.
I would run this section, but you got a textbook, to be fair. So
I do, and it's ironic that I hold it because my team also didn't play the best of football, as I was mocking them on the intro in the last Best of Enemies.
Was it Fossil Football, Glory and Despair by Antonio Conte?
Both teams not playing the best football at the moment.
I will give some credit. They were better in this game, weren't they?
They were.
At least in the first half.
They did. Harry Kane, no surprise, creates the first two big opportunities for Son. Obviously, one curling just round the top corner. The second one, a really good save. And for me, the over-reliance on Kane has happened quite a few years now with Nuno, with Mourinho, these more, restricting managers who obviously think defensive shape first and are not the most expansive, most entertaining, whatever you want to call them. The last three managers since Poch. They heavily rely on Harry Kane to be the absolute hub of the team. Now, Kulusevski coming in January obviously helped that. He helped create a lot more chances and just be a bit more of a creator and be a little bit more like what we speak about with Chelsea when Conte was in charge there, where he had those tucked in tens. He allowed those two players, he had those two players to be creative, the Hazard especially in that team. This Tottenham team, outside of Kane, lack any real creativity.
I agree.
It takes away from, again, him being able to just focus on doing his primary job, which is obviously score goals. He's probably the only forward right now in form for them. But I think he's going with this three purely because not only does he obviously want to match Newcastle and try and, not lose that battle, but I don't think he trusts this centre-back situation.
I think you're right.
I think because... Again, Chelsea, when he was managing their freak situation, you've got Kante, who basically does two people's job. Matic was one of the best holding midfielders in the country. And I do think the individuals were better. The centre-backs that he had, Azpilicueta, Luiz and Cahill. These guys they were just all over the place in terms of Lloris. I mean, two massive errors, isn't it, really?
Yeah, we've got to talk about them. I want to just quickly focus on what you just mentioned about these midfielders, because I was listening to Toby's kind of match reaction, and I hope I haven't quoted him wrong, but I believe he said that they just have too many of the same midfielder.
Yeah,
and
workhorses.
And actually, yeah, exactly. And when I'm looking at it, I've highlighted in red the players I don't consider creative. Now, Son can be, because he's got the quality and he can deliver a great ball or whatever. But I see him as the runner. I see him finishing.
He's the finisher, yeah.
Right. So the only person I really see there who, I would back to basically create something or make it happen is Harry Kane.
Yeah.
Why have I highlighted Emerson Royal and Sessegnon? Well, because especially in a Conte system, wing-backs can also be creative and play a part. You look at what Trent and Robertson do for Liverpool. Yes, they don't play as wing-backs, as full-backs, but Cancelo, exactly. So there's a massive, massive lack of creativity in that side.
Yeah.
And you just mentioned Conte, Matic, Kante, all that. This is your side, you'll know it well, that won the league.
Yeah.
And again, I'm looking at players like Pedro and Hazard, who can drop into the 10 space. Moses and Alonso, who are brilliant at getting forward and being decisive in the final third. Especially Alonso got goals,
loads
and
of goals,
and all that. Kante was box to box, and Matic was a deep-lying sort of creator type. And what you had was, balance, like different things, different what's the word?
Profiles were just a lot more balanced. I feel. When you look at Tottenham's midfield, like you said, it's very much the same of every player. Yeah. He is very underrated. His passing was ridiculous, and I think that's something that Tottenham don't have. As much as I spoke about Kante and obviously the incredible midfielder he was, and the interceptions, the tackles, two players in one. But Matic's passing and composure, and that the ability as well to bring on Fabregas, which is important as well, because Fabregas was part of this squad, just not a consistent starter. And Pedro and Hazard's creativity is something that Tottenham team has nothing near the level of that outside of Harry Kane's passing range. And then obviously the goal threat of Alonso. These aren't the most incredible wing-backs in the world, but he was able to make it work because he had some world-class players in that central area. Yeah. And I just feel like Tottenham, outside of, obviously Son missed a few chances, his finishing is usually better than that. But in a Conte system, you need to have wing-backs that just in the final third are devastating. And Alonso was that for us in a finishing aspect. Yeah. But I feel like Emerson Royal going forward is definitely extremely underwhelming. Sessegnon's still maybe a young player, but Perisic was brought in to be the instant impact. Yeah. Tottenham just don't have enough creativity in that team outside of Harry Kane. It shows in the statistics. I think he was joint top for key passes. The first two chances were all down to his passing. And he's not going to go and get a 10. We know Conte's not going to go and get a 10. He's not going to go and get a Madison or someone. So
really should have got Eriksen.
Yeah, Eriksen was there on a free. Even off the bench, somebody to come on and change the way that Tottenham play and give them another option. I'm surprised they didn't go in for a play like that. Not to start, but to at least come in off the bench.
Or give Brian Hill minutes.
Yeah.
The reason I bring this up, guys, it's not to wax lyrical about a Chelsea team that won the title. It's to make the point and put to bed this myth that 3-4-3 is really defensive and it has to be the name of that textbook, Fossil Football. It's not about the formation three at the back. Yeah, Azpilicueta was a provider, especially when Morata came in the year after in that back three. Yeah. David Luiz, we knew he liked to step in to midfield and add some numbers in there.
Another creative player.
Yeah.
The passing range of David Luiz, he could step forward into, that kind of role there and switch play and make line breaking passes. These two were quite creative. And that's not something that Eric Dyer is going to give you. That's not something that Basuma or Skip or any of these guys are going to give you. So there were sneaky creators. Obviously Hazard is just, ridiculous, but there were creators in the team. Yeah. I think Tottenham, the system can work, but they definitely need to add something spicy to it. Do you know what I'm saying?
It highlights why Kulusevski is such a massive miss for them as well. I want to talk about Newcastle's press. You mentioned Lloris. Now, we've not recreated the goal, but this is the standing positions of everyone when Lloris has the ball. Dyer stepped forward a little bit. What's quite clever about Wilson is he's basically saying, you're not going to come inside because there's no natural ball into Basuma. Almiron's covering that space as well. The centre-backs are split. Dyer's moving into midfield. So they've invited this ball over to Sessegnon. And actually, when they played that ball, Longstaff he's not man-marking me. He's the right of a midfield three.
Almost baiting him into it.
That's exactly it. They baited him into it and he goes and wins that. And by that point, it's a one-on-one battle between Almiron and Longley. And Almiron, what a season. 6 goals in 12 games. Ever since those comments by Jack Grealish, he's decided he's going to turn into, Al Messi. But, he's been
He's been incredible.
Yeah,
some
he's
wonderful
been
goals
phenomenal.
he's scored as well.
Really good
good
goals.
individual goals. Lloris obviously made 2 mistakes because obviously the Wilson goal as well is down to him, not really maybe being strong enough with the duel. I love it when they pressure, goalkeepers into playing it wide because you're always going to maybe under here because you don't want to kick it out of play. You're either going to kick it out of play if you're not a strong ball playing goalkeeper and distributor and confident, which Lloris is not really, specialised in this. Outside of, maybe Ramsdale, you're looking at Ederson's, your Allison's, maybe a few others I'm forgetting, but most goalkeepers, they're quite average in this aspect. And when you push them wide, you're just asking for either a free throw in or you're gonna get a short. And it was short there. And after that, they're not in shape, and it's a goal. So it's really good from Newcastle. I thought they were brilliant. And they could sneakily contend. You never know.
We've got to talk about that quickly. Lloris, was he fouled by Wilson on the first goal?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just coming together. It's coming together. He had nowhere else to go. Goalkeepers do get a lot of protection, but he wasn't going to get it there.
I completely agree. And you're right to mention Newcastle because do they deserve to be in the top 4? Well, listen, the numbers say they do. When you're talking about shots, they rank 3rd in the Premier League so far this season. XG 3rd, shot creating actions 4th, touches in the attacking 3rd 6th, touches in the attacking penalty area 3rd. This is the best bit. They're ranking in the top 4, except for this one. For all these nice attacking stats, they've conceded the least goals this season.
Yeah.
So that is a really complete unit. Fair play to them. Credit to Eddie Howe. He's been the best out of Longstaff, Willock, Joe Linton, players that people ridiculed.
Dan Burn didn't cost a lot, so it's not just about the big signings. Obviously, the Bruno Gomireses, the Isaacs, who hasn't even really played. Trippier was a very smart signing as well. So really impressive, and clean sheet at Old Trafford, and then obviously to go away to Tottenham as well. It's very impressive from them.
I know Newcastle deserve more of our time, guys. I do know. If you're a Newcastle fan watching this, you're thinking, are you kidding me? We're 4th. We've just got 4 points from from Spurs away and United away. I know. We'll do a good section on Newcastle. I've got time to watch them properly and really, we don't want to make things up, but those are obviously impressive numbers. Let's talk about Liverpool now because I want to focus this in a couple of ways. Firstly, about Mo Salah, who is undoubtedly one of the greatest the Premier League's ever seen. And what I've got here is about 2 hours work. This is number crunching. What you can't see, because it's an issue in my graphic, apologies, there's an asterisk on the 22-23 season. We have taken what he's achieved so far in games, goals, shots, all that, and we've stretched it out over a 38-game season. He's played every game so far, and actually he's consistently been available by the 19-20 season, only missed 4 games. So this is a very available Mo Salah, which is a good thing in itself, right?
Yep.
He's always there. And in green, we've got his best number, except for shot accuracy, where he managed to match it in his second season. And in red, we've got his worst, and how many of them are stacking up here on the right. I've just thrown a load of numbers at you here, Matisse, but what are we learning from this?
Well, we're learning that this season is not looking good, in terms of projections. Obviously, this is not the full season done. The asterisk is there. He just doesn't feel like he's as involved. Now, sometimes Liverpool are not playing to his strengths. We've seen that, spoken about that, I think, on previous shows where we've spoken about him being kind of forced to play wider and stay wide, because he always was wide, but he would come inside, make those off the ball runs or carry the ball inside and be the focal point in terms of getting the goals. But because Nunes, different type of striker, he's not a Firmino who's going to sacrifice his position and drift and vacate that space. Nunes is going to stay central most of the time. You want him central. He's not as technically gifted as a Firmino, so you don't really want him contributing to more general play, less general play, if anything, less touches. I think Salah, especially in this game, just Serge Aurier, not a player that's known for being brilliant defensively. When I spoke to Tottenham fans before, Tobes, loads of others, they said, really good going forward, can contribute with goals, but defensively, not really anything special. Wasn't dribbled past once in this game. Neither was Cook. Both of them on that right side of the defence weren't dribbled past. No dribbles really attempted from any of the Liverpool forwards. And it just screams to me now that they're a little bit scared. And I don't know if that's coming from, because these are not bad players. Is it coming from the fact that they know the midfield is getting overrun? Fabinho is not looking the same. Is it coming from the fact that, Jones and Elliott, they're very young players. Obviously Carvalho, there's a lot of young players in a game where didn't really probably want that, but there was injuries. It's tough because, listen, Salah's a great player. I do think, he is part of a system that I'm not expecting Salah to drop deep. I'm not expecting Salah to drop deep and start dictating play and picking up the ball in the midfield and being that type of player. He does want to be on the shoulder. He does want to be on the last line. He does want to be on the end of things. Yes, he can create, but to a degree, in my opinion. I don't think he's an out-and-out playmaker. But yeah, he is struggling, and he was non-existent in this game. But so many players weren't good.
Yeah, and listen, he reminded us all of what he can do in that City game with that goal. It was unbelievable. But I think it goes back to the one moment of magic reminds you and reminds us as fans not to doubt the guy and to believe that he can get back to his best. But also we can't take that as brilliant, he's back in form, he's still world class. No, let's not pretend he's not been quite at his best, and the numbers somewhat reflect that. Yeah. But Liverpool are having problems when it comes to injuries. And I don't want to do the whole injury excuse thing, because ultimately the 11 they had out there should be better than Forest's 11. But then you take into account the amount of games they played, you take into account the reshuffling he's got to do with the injuries, the fact they're not in great form anyway. But to lose Luis Diaz, Matip, Keita, Konate, Nunez, Thiago to an ear infection, poor guy, Arthur and Diogo Jota, that's a lot for anyone to deal with.
It is a lot. I think Liverpool have struggled with injuries for quite a few years now. Is that due to the way that they play, with the intensity, with the rock and roll football it was branded? Maybe. I don't know. We'll never know if the training sessions are maybe too intense and with more fixtures and more games.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, because Thiago was brought in to change Liverpool's style a little bit and maybe calm them down and get them playing a little bit slower tempo at times to kind of go through games at a different tempo, not just play constant, transitions and speed constantly for a full 90 minutes. That's going to take his toll on any squad. And a lot of them are obviously getting to their prime or early 30s, which is also another important point. It's happened with Kante as well. A lot of mileage in the tank, a lot of games played. Car's going to break down at some point. But it's a lot of injured players. And, we know Thiago's injury prone. Konate sadly struggled with quite a few injuries. Keita, very, very injury prone. Matip injury prone. So Arthur, injury prone. Like, these guys, we know that they're injury prone at this point. And when you have so many injury prone players in your squad, you are asking for trouble, because it is going to happen, especially now in the fixtures that we've got.
Very true. Listen, Liverpool's tough start, continues. That's 11 games, and I think only 4 wins on the board, which would be disappointing for them. And Klopp, well done to Nottingham Forest on the win as well. Let's talk about Arsenal, who went to Southampton. I was at the game. And look, I think to keep it quite simple, because this is one of those games where there wasn't that much really in terms of analysis. I mean, basically, we started off 4-3-3. They went 4-4-2. We completely and utterly dominated. Could have been 3 or 4-0 up by half time and needed to take our chances. Yeah. Second half, they did grow into it towards the end of the first half, mainly getting set pieces, and we dealt with them pretty comfortably. Second half, though, they basically revert to a 3-4-3.
Two Armstrongs.
2 Armstrongs, yes. One of them scored. You can deny 1 Armstrong. You can't deny 2. But I thought this was the formation they'd go with at the beginning. And the reason it was a smart move for them was because Arsenal have basically been playing with Martinelli, Jesus, Saka, the wide player stretching the pitch, but Odegaard and Xhaka getting forward. Xhaka's a box-to-box and Odegaard sort of sitting. So what they did was match us a little bit more man for man when they actually got the wing backs, who were basically more like full backs. But Southampton did put it on us in the second half and were a lot better. Partey suddenly wasn't as comfortable. I felt like Jesus, suddenly Odegaard and Xhaka suddenly had a man on them each time, so the passes weren't as fluid as before. And then ultimately when they get their goal, and where is it? Let's show it here. Armstrong's goal. They play through us really, really nicely. Aribo with the dummy, and Perro's kind of come away with it. And then at this point, this is where I ask you, because White's had to fill in at centre-back. I wrote this down on AFTV as well. Yeah. But when El Yunusi comes in here, Tommy Asu backs off, and Armstrong is making that run. Yeah. Should Gabriel be blocking the pass? But it feels quite difficult for him to do that. Or should White be coming across and dealing with Armstrong? Because basically neither happens. I feel like it's White's fault, but then it goes wrong in a lot of ways. Like Saliba here needs to deal with it as well.
If White comes across, then Saliba has to come across too. So it's all about, for me, defending is unless it's an individual error, it's usually down to the whole collective. Because it's like Gabriel 100% could cut that out and then this whole situation is over. But if he does try and engage, and White comes across and Saliba comes across, but then you've got someone on the back post. So it's tough. I think I think for me, the only thing I will say is that White is an experienced centre-back as well.
Sure.
So this shouldn't be a complete mess. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those situations where if you've got a natural right back over there, and you know, sometimes fullbacks these days, they're better going forward than they are defending. They're not really as switched on maybe. I could understand how this maybe is a confusion situation. But White is centre-back traditionally. So yeah, you should be dealing with that situation. But it's good movement, very good movement.
It is good movement, and they executed it well. It's just a shame. So one time they really played through us. If Saliba and Partey win the ball higher up the pitch, then maybe it's dealt with. But yeah, that was a good moment for them. And then, as I said, Arsenal really struggling to create anything come that sort of, well, really from that point, really in the second half, we struggled against their 3-4-3. So something to address there. Let's talk a little bit about Aston Villa, who... First game under their caretaker manager.
Wow.
4-0, 3-0 up after 18 minutes or whatever. And what we had was Villa, let's make these a little bit bigger, was Villa resorting to a 4-2-3-1, having originally played a 4-3-3 with McGinn. Yeah, with Gerrard, yes. Gerrard in midfield? With, imagine you just went
if Gerrard was in midfield, then it might have gone a bit better.
They had McGinn and Ramsey either side of either Luiz or Kamara. So this is a real change to their midfield setup.
Yeah. Villa fans wanted this, it seems.
Yeah, talk us through
calling for it. I mean, Leon Bailey is kind of like Leroy Sané when he was at City.
Okay.
In terms of like just simplifying the job. Sure. He obviously gets the goal from the set piece as well, which is great. Obviously, it's pulled back to him, great finish. But the creativity on that left-hand side with the second goal, it's just good to see, I think, sometimes just going back to basics. And I think for me, sometimes there's a bit of an obsession with, you know, left footer, cut inside, try to score goals. He on that left-hand side was just doing some nice combination play. Sure. If Lucas Digne comes back from injury as well, I can see a partnership maybe developing there. And I think that could be where a lot of the build-up play and a lot of the chance creation happens. And then obviously the off-the-ball running kind of happens over here. Maybe Ollie Watkins can crash the box a little bit more.
Sure.
It just looked like people were playing in their natural areas. Now, it's tough to overanalyze it too much because it's a new manager, new caretaker manager. Gerrard's just been sacked. Is it a new manager bounce? Is it tactical? Is it just, you know, the players just turning up and they didn't like Gerrard? Nobody really knows. But this is a formation that Villa fans, and you know, they'll know better than us watching every single game. This is what they wanted. Yeah. They played a 4-3-3 a lot of the time. Sometimes they played a 4-3-2-1 as well, little Christmas tree. But this is what a lot of Villa fans wanted to see. And it looked really promising. Obviously, Brentford have been up and down. They were smashed against Newcastle. Then they did really well against us and they smashed again. So it's a difficult game to get too in deep with because there's no real record of the 4-2-3-1 consistently working. But in this game it did, and they were brilliant. Ings obviously is a really good finisher. I think he's a better finisher than Watkins. So it's great to have him in the box again. Took his penalty really well, and I think they were really good. And Buendia's been getting a lot of prop this season. That he's been better than Coutinho as well on a lot of the games. So I think I
just think a lot of it comes down to as well a sensible midfield. Buendia in the 10 rather than being kind of one of 2 10s off the strike,
more security
wide or whatever. And then you've got a proper 2 that can protect the back 4 and a base to play off. So
kind of frees these guys up a bit more, knowing that you've got that security, isn't it? And I think it's a good way to start. We see new managers come in all the time. They want to make sure defensively they're secure first, that they don't just leak a load of goals. Lampard did it at Everton, bringing in the defenders. Ten Hag done it at Man United. Potter's tried to do it as well, and he's done pretty well with the clean sheets. Every manager that comes in, even a caretaker, defence first. So the pivot worked. Fair
play to them. Let's just rattle through some of the final games. Wolves and Leicester. Leicester won 4-0 there. I mean, what I got in my notes is that they're 3 points off 10th, which shows you how quickly things can change. They were bottom, I think, last week. And that I think we said last week, their underlying numbers were better than their league position. So they're cashing a little bit on that XG and the data, and they're slowly climbing the table a little bit. Any thoughts on Wolves, Leicester? Or
Maddison. Maddison again, you know, really good finishing from Harvey Barnes as well. A little bit underrated. But Maddison, Tielemans' wonderful goal, but Maddison. Just Maddison has to be on that plane.
I know.
I've said it so many times and we keep saying it. He's a quality player.
Yeah, I agree. I love him. Leeds, Fulham. Fulham have played 12 games. They've won 5, drawn 3, lost 4. How about that for a return? And I remember when they joined the Premier League last time, and Carragher said that they were relegated, I think in like October or whatever, or September he said it. And, you know, this is Fulham under, I forgot his name. Was that Hull? Oh, God, he was at Everton.
Marco Silva.
That's
the one.
You know, just just again, really sensible 11 going out there week in, week out, playing some good football. They beat Villa 3-0 at home, and now they've gone and won at Leeds, and they're climbing the table. They're up to something like 7th or something like
William
that. So,
with the winner.
Was it William?
Former player for both of us, William.
We got very different Williams.
We both got different Williams, although I wasn't too impressed with the one I got all the time anyway.
There you go.
And Piera as well. Really, really doing very well for them.
Yeah.
Obviously, the former Manchester United midfielder as well. Mitrovic is chipping in with the goals. It was always going to be an entertaining one, this one, isn't it? Really, we just knew goals were going to come. But Jesse March is under a little bit of pressure.
He is. He definitely is. On City, what's there to say really? Haaland.
Why would we waste our time?
What's the point? He powers through, a ball over the top. What a pass from medicine. He powers through. But what I will say to people is, when you watch Haaland, watch his movement. People say about what's he offering in terms of link up to open teams up, and I don't know if people are saying that. Some people were saying it before the ball was kicked this season. But look at the Juan Mahrez chance in the second half and then De Bruyne's goal. Look at the way that space opens up for them two because of the way he drags the defenders away with a darting run either to the near post or across goal or whatever. And he opens up the pitch in different ways. So an evolution of Pep's tactics. And again, I'm sure it's something we're going to discuss as well as Newcastle in more depth.
33 touches, so a healthy amount for him as well, for those people
Wow.
that don't like Haaland not touching the ball.
Didn't he have like 8 or something in one of the games at the beginning of the season?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
There you go. All right, guys, we're going to leave it there. Big thanks to Matisse, as always. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. And sorry, I was so shook at the beginning, but thank you for my cake, DL Sports, and for my balloon. Love to everyone. Thank you, Ty. He came in, because he does this when we're doing Tactical Insight on AFTV. And he came in and I was like, what's he doing?
Why is he interrupting?
But bless his heart coming in.
Wonderful.
So thank you, Ty. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, everyone in the comment sections of the videos as well who've been messaging and all that. It really means a lot. 27. And I'm sure we'll like to be here at 37 as well, doing the same show.
Hopefully next week our team have won.
Well, yes, that's true. They gave me a birthday win for PSV. Do I take that? I'll take that. All right, guys, if you enjoyed this video, as always, please do hit the like button. Give us some feedback in the comments, what you'd like to see more of, what you thought of everything we presented here today, and what you're expecting ahead of next week as well. We've enjoyed talking tactics as always. You can't buy it. And actually, if you could buy it, don't buy it. Anyway, we'll leave it there. Big thanks as always.